Good afternoon once again and welcome to today's session. So today's session will be on a hands-on seminar on the use of Asta Power Project to help you draw up your program for the coursework. And then we'll also do a cash flow forecast. George did treat the theoretical aspect of cash flow forecast with you last week, right? He went through what cash flow means, why it's important for projects, why we need to do it. So today we'll actually take a real life example and build up a cash flow forecast for a contractor, right? I believe in your coursework you're supposed to do a cash flow forecast for a developer. The principles are quite similar, but we'll be looking at that for a contractor. So this is what we'll be doing. The first session would have to do with the Asta Power Project, which will mainly be an introduction to what Asta Power Project is, what it can do, and then set up a simple project. Right. And then this second half of the session will be on cash flow forecast. Right. So if you go, we did this earlier on, but then when it comes to Works program, right, you all know what a program is.
Yes.
Right. So when it comes to, if you get onto a project and you have the Works program, right, if I may ask, whom do you think owns the work program? Is it owned by, let's say, the planner who does the Works program? Is the work programs owned by, let's say, the quantity surveyor? Is the work program owned by, let's say, the project manager? When you have the Works program on the side, on a project, who owns it?
Project manager.
Project manager? Why do you think the project manager owns it?
He decides all project all schedules.
He
decide all the schedules.
He decide all he should use, the resources he should use. Okay. Any other view?
It shows the project durations. So when should we schedule to start and finish, and what's the present situation of the task. So it gives the idea like how much we have done and what we have to do in future.
So somebody said because the project, the program shows when activities are supposed to start and end, when subcontractors need to come onto site and move from site. And the project manager is the one who is in charge of that. So because of that, the project manager owns the program. But really, when it comes to, so not a good answer. But then it's much broader, right? When it comes to a project, right, the project delivery team or everybody on the project owns the program. It's produced by the planner. The project manager needs to make sure the activities are done per the program. But at the end of the day, everybody has some sort of input on the program. Because, the quantity surveyor needs to be able to undertake interim valuations and for subcontractors for them to be paid on time. You need to have a procurement plan where you have the procurement program, and on the procurement program, you have maybe your purchasing manager or your procurement manager monitoring it to be able to make purchases. So really and truly, when you have the Works program, everybody owns the program. Although it's managed by the program manager, everybody has some sort of activity on it. So the program is very important for the whole team, not just the project manager. You all need to obey it. This is a sample program for finishes where it tells you, normally when you have a program of work, it contains a lot of activities, right? It could be over 100, 200, 1,000 activities depending on the scope of the project, the size of the contract sum, and it's sort of, let's say, contract strategy they decide to use, right? So this is just a sample of finishes for a Works program. Let me show you a typical example of a Works program for a real project. This was kind of a design and build, right? And there were about 284 activities. And what you realize is that almost all the activities are linked. You have almost all the activities linked from one event to the other. Like when we zoom in, right, because it's a design and build contract, the program captured what the various design release milestones and when they were supposed to be done. It also had what a procurement plan on the program, which tells the contractor that, okay, when it comes to, let's say, advanced groundworks package, the works have been broken down into work packages, right? So for advanced groundworks package, right, the first thing they had to do was that they need to procure a subcontractor, which meant they produce an inquiry, right, by producing a document, ask the subcontractor, would you be able to price for this work? We have this scope of work. Are you interested? They identify. So that's what 1 day. And they estimate that a subcontractor will take 4 days to do the pricing, right? So when you look on the program as well, the pricing has taken what? It will take 4 days. And then from there, they estimate that they will place the order within 4 days as well. Make the decision, place the order within 4 days. And the mobilization period for the contractor to come onto site is 5 days, the subcontractor. So you need to, based on the work package you develop, you need to be able to have a procurement plan. If you are maybe a main contractor which managing different subcontractors on your project, you need to have a procurement plan in terms of when you are procuring each package of work. Take note that procurement does not mean construction has started. It only tells you when you procure an item so that you are able to meet your lead time to be able to get a subcontractor onto site. So from the procurement plan, they did an actual construction program, which actually captured the activities that will be happening on the site. So under it, you have site establishment, where those mainly are preliminary works, temporary site establishment, establish your site offices. They have temporary bridge, demolition. So all these are preparatory works prior to the actual construction, which was piling. Then you come to the piling, you come to the reinforced concrete frameworks and the different work items. You go to your deck, your wing walls, and then finishes. So you need to be able to identify, at each stage, what sort of contract you are using, whether it's a design and build, whether it's a traditional. If it had been the traditional form of procurement, where the contractor is only responsible for construction, the contractor may not have considered design. But procurement, the contractor may still need to consider procurement, because the contractor may be using different subcontractors to deliver different work activities. Right. So depending on the type of procurement approach you are using, the items you have on your program does vary. I'm sorry I cannot release the works program for you because it's a real life project. A friend gave to me for a real life project, so I'll not be able to put that on the model page. But I only use it to illustrate or show you how an actual works program looks like. Right. We did talk about a critical part as well the other day, which you know what it is the longest part. It's both the longest and shortest part to finish a project, right? It means that you always need to monitor your activities on the critical part. But then also in monitoring activities on the critical part, you should also keep your eyes on the non-critical activities, because if you do not, they will also slip and come onto your critical part, right? And basically, for critical part, to establish your critical part, you need your activities running from the very beginning all the way to the end, right? And another thing also, when you're doing activities on the critical part, should not be more than 4 weeks. So if you're doing, let's say, if you're doing a work package, probably you're doing some form of concreting, or maybe you want to do painting, and it will take you 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks to finish. It's best to break it down into maybe, let's say, floor by floor, maybe concrete on the ground floor, concrete on the first floor. Because when activities are so long, maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks, it's a bit difficult monitoring them. You guys, it's quite difficult monitoring them. But if it's quite, shorter duration. It's relatively easier. If something goes wrong, you easily are able to rectify it. But if it's 8 weeks or 10 weeks, the assumption is you may think you have time to be able to finish that activity, even though you may be slipping behind. But if it's 1 week and you're not able to finish the activity in 1 week, it's a bit more easier for you to take some sort of corrective action and rectify it before it accumulates with it, around the 8th week or the 10th week. To be able to, when you are doing your works program as well, a key thing there is getting your durations, right? Which, because for every activity you need to be able to obtain your duration. Being able to estimate your duration comes in from your method statement, right? Method statement basically, as a planner or programmer, the method statement tells you how you're going to do a work activity, right? So for instance, if maybe you have to do excavation, right? And maybe you decide to use manual labor to do the excavation, your output rate will be different from somebody who decides to use an excavator. So you need to be able to think about, how am I going to do this work? Do I intend to use manual labor, or do I intend to use some form of plant and equipment? And based on the plant and equipment, you also are able to assess the output rate, right? If you want to, let's say, place concrete, if you want to mix concrete manually, the output per gun will be different from if you are just buying pre-mixed concrete onto site. So prior to doing estimating your durations, you need to have an idea of the sort of method statement you are using, how you're going to undertake that work. And based on that, you can estimate your duration. So the duration is basically the quantity of the activity you are doing divided by your output of the gun times the 8 hours per day. And a good source, to be able to get your output for various activities, there's this website, Planning Planet, right? Planning Planet. If you go onto that website, if you go onto this website, it's able to tell you, they do have some average realistic building finishes. Perhaps let's take which work item, maybe granulitic flooring, right? So it tells you that for a gang of 2 layers, right, and a single laborer, they are able to do a 3.5, they're able to lay 3.5 square meter of flooring per hour. You get it? So in 1 hour, you'll be able to do a 3.15 square meter. So if you want to know if you want to know the floor area they can cover in a day, right, it will be this 3.15 with this gun, it will be 3.15 times 8, which, because we have this, the rate per the output per hour, in a day we have 8 hours. So 3.15 times, what will be the answer?
25.2.
25.3. Okay, so 25.2 meters square per day. That's a gang of a gang of 2 layers and 1 laborer. Right, a gang of 2 are able to do 25.2 square meters. So for instance, if you have, let's say, a total area, a total floor area, right, of maybe 100 meters square, right, and for a day, your gang of 2 can do 25.2 square meters, right, which means how many days would you need to be able to do?
4 days.
You need about 4 days. Right. It's simply the total area divided by the output per day. I don't know.
Simple calculation.
Yeah. Are you all clear about this?
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Okay. So let's see. Let's start. We have a gang of 2 layers. And 1 labor. Right. I mean, for every 1 hour, right, for every 1 hour, we say this gang will be able to lay what? 3.15 meters square, right? If they work 1 hour, this is the area they will be able to work. But then how many hours in a day? 8 hours, right? So if 8 hours, what would they be able to lay in a day? Well, just what 8 times, which is 25.2 meters square per day, right? So all we are saying is that in 1 day, this gang will be able to lay 25.2 meters square. So let's assume you've measured your floor area, right? Within this room, let's assume we measured our floor area, and the total floor area here, it's what, 100 square meters, right? If 1 day, it's what, we are able to do 25.2 meters square, then how many days do we need to be able to what, lay 100 square meter? It will just be 100 over what, 25.2, right? Which is about almost 4 days, right? So we need 4 days to do this. So if you as a project manager think you want to finish faster than the 4 days, what you can do is to increase your gang size, right? Because 2 gang and 1 laborer gives you this. So if you multiply the gang size by 2, it drops the number of days to just 2.
2 days.
Yeah, 2 days. So you as a project manager needs to make that call in terms of when you want to finish something, and then maybe whether you have enough working space for the resources you are bringing onto site. Right. Yeah.
How about the safety factor? Don't we give the extra time for unexpected situations?
Yeah, so normally this output rate are typically average, right? They are based on work study. So they try to, they go to site, they try to estimate that, okay, based on working efficiently, delays and or what's the average output rate you get. But when you're working as a project manager, you get to also build your own output rate over time. So if you have people working in your organization, if you factor in the safety, some sort of safety, you get to know the sort of area your workers are able to cover, and that's what you use. So definitely you may try to make some adjustments, but it all depends on you knowing the resources you have.
Maybe 12 days for extra.
Yeah. So, if you go onto this website, you'll be able to get quite a number of output rates over there. So let's just rush through and then, so the key thing we want to tackle today is what the Master Power Project, right? Let's check. The key thing we want to focus on today is what Asta Power Project, right? To get there, if you have your laptop, you don't need to go through this process. Or for those who are listening, who watch the video or listen to the audio, you don't need to go through this process. All you need to do is to, go to the desktop. The Power Project has been installed on almost every computer on the university. So you can use it anywhere on campus. You just go to the apps anywhere, search for projects. Right. There are 2 versions. There are the 14 and the 15. The 15 is the most recent version, which is what we are using. So yeah, we just click and open it. I hope you're all on there.
Yeah.
On this page.
Right.
So what we'll be doing here today, right, we'll go through this process. So let's say, just click on new because we want to open a new file. Right. And then here, the file name, how you intend to save the file. I know, maybe just trial. Sorry? I'm doing this for those who are quite new to our project. All right. So the file name, maybe let's just say Dman Asta. What? Right. Here you put a title of the, yeah.
I've used the document to copy paste the license key. Not working. So,
Sorry?
here's the documents you sent to the email.
Yeah.
I've used them, I've downloaded, installed, everything is fine. But when it comes to copy paste the license key, it's not working.
Yes, I understand that's here.
Wait, the license key.
Can I,
No. Okay, so today, can you work on the desktop?
you want me to, is it working with this?
Yeah, it's working on the desktop. If you can work on the desktop today,
I'll do that, yeah.
and then maybe after the class, we have a quick look of how you can activate the licenses. Right. There are three documents in the installation folder. Right. You need the first one is download, one is being able to send an email to.
We have to make them to
IT.
services something like that.
Sorry?
We have to make them copy to the services.
Yeah, IT service. We'll get back to you with that.
Yeah, they should, but we don't need
Yeah.
license.
I mean, IT service may take some time to get back to you because they are quite busy now. 2 days. Okay, somebody said they got back to him in 2 days, so no problem. Sorry, I hope you are all on this interface. Right. So we just, I mean, depending on the project title, maybe let's just say our project title is Asta for our project. So it depends on what you are doing actually. I mean, if it's maybe the project is construction of a 4-story house, yeah, you could do that. Right. And then one thing we also need to do is that we want to be able to select our start date for the project. Right. What we also want to do is to determine the start date for the project. So the start date, we can make it today, or let's say assuming we want to start our project, let's say beginning sometime in January. We are not starting now. We want to start maybe sometime in January. Let's just say the start date is 13th of January.
January 13th.
Yeah, 13th. Right, so just 1, 3, in a day. 13 January 2020. So that's why I selected
And create.
and then create. Sorry?
There's no power protector in this one.
It has.
No, there is. Okay, I'm coming.
On desktop.
Yeah.
It's on the desktop.
It's on the desktop. Go to the apps. Right, so once we go through that process, this is what our interface. Right. And when you look on the interface, right, you have your quick access bar at the top, which allows you to be able to click on the most of the buttons or tools you use regularly. Right. You have your date zone here, which shows the months and weeks. You have your bar chart here, which shows you the duration of the activities in the bar chart format. Right. You have your project view here, which is where you're able to assign your resources and cost. And then you have, you have other tools over here as well. So for today, what we'll be trying to do is to be able to create tags. We'll be creating various tags. We'll also be trying to do editing the duration of the tags, move tags in the bar chart, how to draw multiple tags on a bar, linking tags, rescheduling, and then using the Library Explorer.
What we are always on.
Sorry? Right. So let's just say, so one thing you can do, you realize that the screen is quite small. The bar chart area. If I want to increase the size, all I'll do is to take the pointer to auto hide the bar and tax properties, right? And I just click auto hide. Right. If I want to bring it back, I just take the arrow down to the bar and properties and click on it, and it's back. Right. So that helps me. So let's just say we have, let's just type anything at all. So notice something, because I did the start date at January 13, 1-3, my week 1 for the project starts from what? January 13. Any other date before that, it's minus. Minus 1, minus 2, which my week 1 starts from 13 January. Right. So let me just say I have activity A, activity B, right? Rather than type it all out, right? What I can also do is to just highlight the activity, which is maybe activity B, right? I highlight it, go to the copy on the home page, click copy, and then just paste, right? I can paste as many times as I want.
Maybe I'm just going right of it. Do you also have a master activity in subclass?
Sorry?
A master work package, that's an oversight that will involve digging, that will involve putting the foundation cylinder in. So do you have one main title and then a number of activities in the meantime?
Yeah, okay, you probably have maybe substructure.
Yeah.
The substructure you have.
Over here.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. I just want us to start, for those who do not have those who are not used to the interface, just so we can start. Because are you all used to this interface? Have you all tried it? So I need to be able to factor in everybody, right? So you can paste as many activities as you want. So you just copy and then you click on paste. So when you are done, you just once you are done, you just come and edit it to let your activity C, D, E, right, F and G. I do prefer having, if you look on the screen, you have your name, start, duration, and finish, right? I prefer having my duration next to what? The name of the activity, rather than it being in the middle of start and finish. Right. So what I will do, I want to move my, I prefer having my duration I prepare my Gantt charts to have my activity have a duration, and then have my start date and finish date. But the moment when you look at it, you have what? Name, start, duration, and what? Finish on your screen. So all I'll do is I'll just click on the duration column, left click and hold down on it. And move it. Right. So what did I do? I click on it, make sure there's a double arrow at both ends. Right. Make sure there's a double arrow and I just move it. Right. So maybe, let's say, there are various ways by which you can enter your duration. Right. So the first way is I bring my mouse to the bar chart section, right? This area, I bring my mouse to this area, the bar chart area, and then all I do is I just I left click and I drag, right? I make sure that when I bring the mouse, I make sure I have what, a plus sign, right? Just left click and drag. As you drag, it shows you the duration. Right. Click any of the activities and then just left click and drag. So anyone have any difficulties in doing that? You've already done it.
No, we're just saying we have to specify the start date of the project first. Then we can't enter other durations, right?
No, we'll get to there. I'm just trying to introduce the basics. We'll get to, I mean, we're just trying to play around for now.
But it's better if we start before we start date, then we add it is more.
Anyway,
I'm just showing the ways of entering the duration.
it's just getting used to it.
Yes. Sorry? Okay. And then also, rather than just click and draw, right, you can also enter the duration in the duration column. So if you wanted to enter, let's say 2 weeks, right, you enter 2 weeks, it shows there. I could enter, I should also enter what, maybe 10 days, right. And that's it. So I can either draw my duration using the plus arrow or maybe enter the duration here. And if you could also, I mean, if you, for instance, you draw a duration and you think that duration is longer or shorter, right, or you probably want to increase the duration, all you do is just to bring the cursor to the end of what the bar chart, and then you move it or you decrease it. Right. And you can draw, for instance, if let's say activity A, you probably are activity A foundation, you probably want to split the activity, right? After drawing this, I could also draw another activity up here, which means activity A will be done in 3 phases, right? It's really quite simple. If you click on undo, and then that's it. One other thing what you want to do when you start your project. So for now, everything is just, let's just assume we want, we said what, a link guard chart, we need to link the various activities, right? At the moment, we are not able to determine what a critical part is because all we are doing is by drawing what, different bar charts. So let's just assume we want to activity B is linked to activity A, right? And to link activity B and activity A, we bring the cursor to the end of activity A. So we get what the pointed arrow up there it is. Click on it and draw an arrow to this. You bring the arrow to the end of the activity, you click on it, assuming it starts to finish. Right. And once I do that, what I'll do is to click F9. If I click F9, it tells me this. And do you notice what happened? See these 2 activities, right? Let's assume activity E, right? It's done after what? Activity D, right? Because activity D is the predecessor of E, I need to link these 2 activities, right? So I click on this. Sorry, left click, and then once I'm done with that, I can go here, reschedule your branch. Click on OK. So it means all it does is to move it away to establish the sequencing. Right. So here I'm trying to establish my sequencing. What activities come after the other? Right. Same way. So let me assume. Let me assume the predecessor of 6 is 3. Right. All I'll do is to bring the arrow here. Then click here. And then maybe for this, so I click on what F9, and then it moves. I'd like us to do a real example. This was just introducing you to the interface, right? So let's take one example for the precedence diagram we did. Can you please? Hi. Can you? For those watching online, the example the example we'll be doing has to come from the Moodle page. So if you go onto your Moodle page,
Is that what example is it?
so no, we're coming to do a real example, right? For those watching online, if you go into the Moodle page, you go to Learning Package 4. The example we are about to do has been labeled Seminar Exercise for Week 6.
This one.
So you just download it and then this is what it is. That's on page 3. Can you give me one of the sheets, please? Okay. Right. So what do we have here? So let's start a new sheet. I want to label it as maybe Gantt chart 1. Right. The title. You can close the previous one if you want. You can close the previous one. Right. So let's just assume, for example, while you did not set your start date prior to saving or opening the file, you can always come here, right-click the dates section. Right. I want to. What start date you or when you want us to start?
That's the 1st of January.
1st of January is a holiday. It's best to start on a Monday.
If they pay me well, I'll work.
They pay you well. Okay, so maybe let's say the 1st January and February. Right. So you just right click. Sorry?
6th of January.
6 of, okay, yeah, we can go 6 of. Or you come right click, properties. You right click, select properties, go to dates. So what we're trying to do is to establish what our day 0. Right. And we said our day 0 should be when? Somebody said 6th January.
6th of January, yeah, that's all.
6th January, okay. Apply, that's it. Right.
Okay.
So based on the example we have, right, on this side of the paper, the Gantt chart, consider a project including 7 activities, 8. That's this example. Right. There are 2, I want us to look at this example. Right. Consider a project including 7 activities, A to G. Based on the information shown below, develop a Gantt chart using what? Asta PAR project. Right. So normally when you have this activity, when you have something like this, the first thing we want to do is to be able to type in the activities we have. So we know we have activity A. Activity B, C, D, E and F, right. Like I did mention earlier, I prefer having my duration section next to what's my activity name. Right. So what I'll do here is to move the duration section next to the activity name. Right. What's the duration? So the first thing, you enter the activity names, and the next step is to enter your duration. Right. So for activity A, what's the duration? 3. Right. Activity B is what? 5. But activity B is 5, and then C is what? 4. The next activity is also 4. 7, 5, and 4. Right. Sorry, are you all following?
Yeah, but our start date is not.
Sorry?
Our start date.
Yeah.
Once we start date, 3 days, the start date is on 28th instead of like 6th of January.
You did? Okay, hold on. So, instead of 6th of January, did you establish your start date?
Yeah, yes. You see, now it's 9th of January. Supposed to
You
say
know, you can.
the same.
So the first thing you want to do is to right.
Move it to 6th of January. Okay.
So once you enter an activity, it starts after.
Alright.
And there's something you also need to do here. Sometimes when you start entering your durations, right? you may want to constrain, or you may want to constrain the start date, right? So once you enter the very first activity, you probably don't want any activity to start before that. So what I would do is, if I right click this activity, I set the constraint flag. When you are starting, some of you are having challenges in terms of maybe your activity is not starting at the beginning of January. And some of you are having those challenges. When you enter your durations, your activities are not starting at the beginning on the 6th of January. So normally what you do is that you enter your first activity, establish drag it to the start date. Right. So let me just say, if I were to be all I'm trying to say is that if I were to be starting, for instance, if I want to start on the 1st of January, right, on the 6th, right, I enter my 3-day. What I'll do is to drag this activity to wherever I want it to start as my week 1. Drag it there, and then I set my constraint date. So to set my constraint date, I right click on the activity. I click on the activity, right click, go to what? Constraint, and then start on. So this becomes my constraint. No activity will start before this date. So once I do that, I then go on to entering the duration. Excuse me, hi. Hi. Hello. Sorry, if you think you know it already, you could let the others do it. If you think you know it already, and you want to talk.
We just discussed it.
Yeah, but it's
So the next activity is what, 5 days? So can you also, are you able to establish the constraint flag? The constraint, right, okay. So 5, 4, 4, 7, 5,